Joining me is Sourabh Gupta. He's a Senior Asia-Pacific International Relations Policy Specialist at the Institute for China-America Studies. Thank you very much for your time. Now, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi told Blinken that there was a danger in US-China relations going astray due to America's view of China, or Americans in terms of the general public. That there is an increasing bout of China phobia. Do you think Americans are becoming more anti-China?
Yes, I think that is a plain fact. I would assign much of the responsibility for that to the last administration, the Trump administration. Generally, U.S. administrations have been constructive guardians of the U.S.-China relationship, but the last administration mismanaged it and did not care about it. And at this point of time, there is very strong negative sentiment about China. And it's not just within the Beltway. I would say across the country, China's reputation has fallen fairly drastically.
And of course, the last administration did a lot in terms of the trading relationship between the two countries. And there still is that tense rivalry, but the world's two biggest economies do still remain major trading partners. But there are clues now that Biden is considering scrapping tariffs on a range of Chinese goods to curb surging US inflation before the midterms. How likely is this to happen, do you think? And how might it impact their relationship?
Well, it is likely to happen. It will happen, and it will happen in the next couple of weeks. But we must be also clear about a few things out here. All the tariffs are not being scrapped. Just a subset of those tariffs are being scrapped. And I fear it might be a very small subset of the tariffs. Secondly, we have to understand the tariffs in the first place have been found to be illegal by a WTO panel. The tariffs shouldn't even be there. Point two. Point three, the U.S., as I said, is not going to be removing many of the tariffs. It's doing it primarily from a way to control inflation. I don't think it's really going to have a material impact as such in terms of the inflation issue. It might at the margins, but I think they're overestimating what the tariff reductions will constitute. And my final point is that regardless of what is done on the tariffs, I mean, regardless of whether it's small or a large removal, we all have to understand the tariffs were the first shot of the US-China new Cold War, if we might say, during the Trump administrations. So any reduction or any removal, I think, is very politically salient, even if it might not be materially, economically very salient or beneficial.
Now, Blinken did also raise concerns about China's positioning with Russia. There is talk of consequences, including sanctions potentially, should China offer material support to Russia in the conflict in Ukraine. China has said this is not something it will do or has done. Do you think that the meeting has helped to ease these tensions?
Yes and no. I think the tensions were there going into the meeting. The tensions will continue even after the meeting on the Ukraine issue. But I think the U.S. administration is reasonably assured that China is not planning to become an important player in backfilling many of those sanctions. I think China's policy has been, as so long as a hot war is ongoing, China will maintain a low profile. Once we have a ceasefire, China might resume normal or some form of normal cooperation with Russia. But I think the administration is now assured, after so many months of the conflict ongoing, that China wants and is being responsible in maintaining a low profile and not providing that material support that the US and the West had feared vis-a-vis Russia.
Sourabh, thank you very much for your time. There's Sourabh Gupta from the Institute for China-America Studies.
Most welcome.